Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here at the Energy Tech Summit with the best and the brightest in the industry. I have heard very new insights and perspectives today, and I'm very sure with the panelists that we have today, it will be again a very interesting discussion. Briefly about myself, Adriana Fricke from ChargePoint. I'm in charge of public policy in the DACH region, and I would like to start our panel with a short tour de table. Please introduce yourselves and the companies that you're representing today.
Hello, I'm CEO of Elinta Charge, developer and producer of EV chargers. And Elinta Charge is based in Lithuania, but operating in more than 30 markets, so from Iceland to Israel, all over Europe, Australia, Hong Kong, and elsewhere.
I'm Sebastiano Paganini, product line manager at ABB. I'm based in Italy, and for sure looking into the charging and e-mobility. And today we are also tackling the discussion from another angle, in general from the electrification perspective, what you need around the charger and the charging systems. So this is the area where I'm focused.
Filippo Veglia, co-founder and sales director of TAU, a company producing magnet wire for higher voltage applications.
Katarzyna, the CTO of Mikutis, the company which is providing the solution.
Yep, that microphone is not working, so let me change it.
Sorry for that. I will start one over again. So, Katarzyna Zielińska, I am representing Mikutis. I am CTO there, and we are the company which is providing the solutions, new technology based of nanomaterials for automotive and energy sector.
So when looking at the new directions that are needed basically to promote a transition to an mobility transition, I would like to start with innovation. Maybe with you, Sebastiano, what are the new smart charging solutions that are needed basically to accelerate the energy transition?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So as I was saying, so we are taking it a little bit from the bigger picture, and what we see is that the number of charging points, both in commercial area and also in the residential, are growing a lot, growing dramatically. And of course, around those, there is also an increase of complexity of the grid and the assets that are basically around the network itself. So if we look specifically in the houses, the level of complexity that we were seeing before is dramatically changing. So we don't have only the charger, or we might have it, but there are for sure scenarios where you have different assets, the electrification is increasing. So a level of complexity that brings also the self-generation in the houses. And all in all, what we see is that a very high need of having all these managed in the best way. So around the charger itself, where we bring, of course, a lot of quality and innovation in the device itself, then it's also for sure needed a system of energy management that helps to direct the flows of energy in the best way, make the best usage of self-generated energy, and on the other side, help in the biggest, let's say, topic that it's on everybody's mind, which is cost and increasing level of cost of energy. With charging point in the house for the household, we will have, of course, an increase of general cost for the electricity. So to have a system that in a very easy way helps you to manage the flows of energy and give you transparency of how you are behaving, it's definitely one of the directions that we see in the market.
And with that, I would like to pass maybe the floor to Ignas. How is Elinta working on intelligent charging solutions, and also maybe coupled with sustainability, which is a key factor basically in building a smarter future?
Okay, so when it comes to innovations in EV charging, I would say that the main revolutions have happened already. Like there were times when people were discussing what kind of standards should be in place of the plug as itself, right? Now we do not have these questions, and at the time it probably was quite important to figure out which way to go, or even discussions whether to swap batteries or to charge. So now the standards are written. Yes, they are rather improving So then I would say that the innovation in our business is everything about improving or catching up with the standards, or kind of helping the bodies which comes with the standards, you know, with the good practices, with the difference between markets, because let's say what you have, let's say in North Europe, it might be very different in UK, in Germany, or in South. Also balancing or overall using power and energy efficiently in terms of power and commercial or pricing, you know, like talking about the spot pricing, that it would go, you know, as low as possible when the car is charging. Also, of course, using the existing infrastructure, again, as efficiently as possible with using balancing, dynamic load management, solar panel integration, et cetera, batteries as well.
In promoting innovation, we don't look only to the charging infrastructure, but also to materials. Maybe Katarzyna, you can tell us more about your solutions.
So definitively you need to have the whole supply chain to build those batteries, to build those e-vehicles. And we need to remember that some of the things which we need, like materials like nickel, cobalt, etc., we have some of them, but we need much, much more. It's said that, for example, to reach the goal which we need to bring those all e-vehicles to the market, we need to have around 300 new mines. Is it possible? This is a question mark, but definitively we need to look into that. And coating is trying to help with this. For example, we are looking how to use the materials which we have more sustainable. So, for example, reduce of metal use which you have, or replace the metal with something else. Like, for example, take some of it and bring the nanomaterials which can serve as well as those metals. So definitely we cannot forget that there is whole supply chain to build as well.
Indeed, electrification disrupts the whole ecosystem, right? So it's all about also the supply chains, critical raw materials. It's also about the battery components. Maybe, Filippo, you can tell us more about that.
Yeah, of course. The raw material, the recharge station, the user preference for electric vehicle are all a complex problem. Our approach is quite basic. We say higher voltage kind of give better condition in all of this. You can reduce the amount of raw material that you need for your electrical parts if you have higher voltage. You can speed up the recharging very much, or at the same have the same speed, but much more efficient, depending on your policy. But to do so, you need to step up in the technology of the car, of the structure, of everything. We do our part, which is the magnet wire, which is used in electric motors, in inverters, and you can say also in batteries. And these components is critical to allow to have higher voltage, because it's insulated, and the strength of this insulation is what decides the voltage you can go.
It's interesting that you mention higher voltage solutions, because as I see it, that would service a bit better a certain niche, like let's say like fleets, heavy duty vehicles. But what happens with home charging? Is that the best solution? Maybe Sebastiano?
Yeah, hard to say, hard for me to envision it right now. So we are experiencing pilots and trials that are going outside, let's say, what is the typical that we see, so the standard electrical distribution that it's foreseen in that specific market. So trial with DC, maybe higher voltage. It's very interesting. It's a direction that also for us as a company we are looking into, so what will be the evolution. Of course, it has some challenges, especially in the residential, where there is a huge installed base and a distribution network that it's built in the country to be, let's say, in that way. So that's a challenge for sure, but we are looking with interest to these trials and pilots that are going in new directions.
We know that 80% of the charging actually happens at home or at the workplace, and the rest of 20% is basically happening at destination charging or fast charging. Ignas, I would like to hear your opinion on that as well.
Agree. yeah.
Connection also to what Filippo said, basically,
So
with the...
I think we have to admit that and to accept that e-mobility brings much more diversification than the traditional cars we had for the century. So what we had, like petrol, diesel, and pretty much it. And maybe the last decades there was LNG, and still it's not mainstream. So when it comes to EVs, we have, again, I can say, okay, DC and AC, that would look not much, but talking about the habits of drivers, they are different. Again, we have countries with the mountainous areas, we have countries in cold climate, we have countries in hot climate, islands, we have different distribution systems, also operators, also prices, etc., and that brings unique kind of challenges, which has to be served, I guess, also uniquely. And even DC has a range between probably 25 to, I don't know, 350, which is wide range, and saying like, oh, DC is a solution. Yeah, which DC? How many DCs in that place? For how long cars will be charged? What type of cars? Heavy duty, buses, and so on and so forth. So I would say, we have to be really open-minded, creative, and look what is best from the given situation.
Also, when talking about technology and innovation, we're also hearing about bidirectional charging. This is a word, a buzzword that has been mentioned a lot of times, and I would really like to know what your take is on that, because some players say it's feasible, some players say we still need to clear so many aspects, fiscal, legal, technical. Is that a reality or need to be?
Yeah, indeed, it's a buzzword for probably the last 5 or 7 years. And I do not see much progress in that, except that there are more discussions on that, which is good. That will come for sure. But the ball is at automotive side, and then on regulator side and DSO's side. We as EV chargers manufacturer, we are ready to, we know the standard is written. We are ready to supply chargers which are V2G proven, let's say. With the DCs, maybe it's a bit more challenging, but again, it is possible from the hardware side and from the software side. It's more about regulation, about legal stuff, and about automotive. When they are ready, we are ready.
And looking a bit further in the future, maybe Katarzyna, you can tell us, we are also hearing a lot about autonomous driving. What are the gaps that need to be bridged from the political and mobility stakeholders, basically, to achieve those autonomous driving mobility solutions?
I maybe start from that with EVs now it's possible. It was much, much more difficult when we had just internal combustion engines. So now we have this enabler which makes it possible actually to go fully autonomous vehicles. But we are still not there yet. We know that. We know that we need hardware. We need a lot of software, actually, probably much more than we ever used to in case of vehicles. So this is something which we need to really look into it. You probably heard that average EV cars has around 15 million of lines of code. And with autonomous, probably it will be even more. So definitely we need to have people which can write those codes. We need to have regulations, as you said, but we need to have as well people which like to go for such solution. I think that there is still a lot of anxiety. Is it safe? I am okay with this kind of solution. Will it not kill the dog on the street or whatever? But if you think about especially some of people which are now excluded from using a vehicle because they are disabled or they have some obstacles and they cannot actually drive vehicles, for them it will be enormous change. But I said, we need those several things to make it possible.
So maybe artificial intelligence can write the code.
But okay, then let's take it a bit one step at a time. How can we then accelerate the uptake of EV vehicles? According to the latest International Energy Agency EV Outlook, basically we are expected to make immense progress on that, but still we are lagging behind. And maybe I would like to hear what is your take, how we can basically accelerate that uptake, and what are the hurdles basically?
If I might.
Yes, please.
We should allow the people that cannot use electric vehicle now to do it in the future. As you said, 80% of electric cars are recharged at home or at office. Yes, because the customer are the people who can afford that. But most of the people in Western Europe live in apartments, and you cannot have a recharge point from the house to everybody. So we have to make recharging possible also for those who don't have a recharge point at home or at the office. And if it takes 1 hour or 2 hours to recharge the car, it's still a hurdle for the customer. This is why we believe that increasing the voltage does the recharge speed can be a solution, potentially.
Ignas?
Yeah, I would, personally, I do not see any obstacles to drive electric car like right now. And I think there are no technical obstacles. I mean, now I sound radical, but I think that all obstacles are more in behavior, in mind, and all the disclaimers that, oh, I'm not driving electric car because it's expensive. Yeah, but you are driving a BMW X6 or something. It's also expensive, and moreover, you are proud of it, where you shouldn't be proud of it because it's really polluting, and especially diesel cars. And it's not only about CO2, it's not only about climate change, but it's about direct impact to our health, to our kids' health or elderly people, those who are living in the city area, and most of the cars are polluting in the cities. So I think that this is already the time when we should talk when we should change the norm of understanding what is nice, what is right. And probably like we all have seen Marlboro advertisement, from 80s, and it looked like cowboy, looked really cool. But at that time, probably it would be not acceptable to have ugly pictures on the package of cigarettes, and which says smoking kills. And I would say, what if we start putting stickers on ICE cars, driving diesel kills, because literally it does. And it does, because like if you talk with the, medical doctors and everything, they would say, yes, pollution is one of the main cause of heart diseases and cancer and so on. So, but we have to shift our minds into that, and I see lack of NGOs activity regarding the matter. NGOs are active in smoking, reducing the smoking, or animal rights, which is all good things. But I don't see enough effort on this issue, on internal engine combustion.
I maybe touch on what our previous speaker said. He said, there is the city, but there is few villages around, and they don't have access to the charging point. So I think that what could help is actually to build this infrastructure. Now, not to have charging points in big cities, because not everyone goes there, or just goes from time to time. So we really need to put effort to make this possible, to build this infrastructure, build charging points, but as well make the grid ready for that. Because we need to remember this is not only about having EV and charging point, but all the ecosystem, production of energy, and the grid need to be ready for that.
Yeah.
I think both of you actually mentioned two very important points. Is in convincing people basically to transition to EV, there are some myths that are still circulating, like range anxiety, or the prices that are still high, or not enough charging infrastructure. Like, what would be maybe from your perspective, like myths that need to be debunked on electric vehicles? What people think it's still the case and probably not anymore?
like range anxiety. Like how many of you are driving, I don't know, 300 kilometers on a daily basis? I'm driving 200 kilometers on a daily basis. I'm driving electric. And very often, like once in 2 weeks, you know, I'm driving those 300, 350 kilometers. And it's okay. I have crossed Poland many times from Lithuania. Many, it means like in 3 years, like 7 times probably. I drew from Estonian for their city with one stop while everyone is eating, and my friends were driving petrol cars, and we stopped for eating. Friends were joking, probably food will be awful, but Ignas will have where to charge. That was maybe, the one fact was for real. I had where to charge, and it was less than 1 hour. I was fully charged, and I didn't have to stop anymore, and it was like around 700 kilometers in the summertime, though. But so I don't see real obstacles because nobody are working. Those who are not working, you know, truck drivers, they shouldn't complain that car has no range of 700 kilometers.
Jobs. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Sorry. No, and beyond this fear, of course, of the range, we see also this similar behavior again when you have to think about building your own system. I'm again talking about residential, because as we said, 80% could be charged at home, but we see similarly also companies and business that are also taking that direction. We are taking that direction to try to make our site sustainable and carbon neutral, so that's a goal for us. And similarly, when you are in a house, you have, or you think to have a complex system, so that's another behavioral barrier that it's an area where we are actively working on to let people understand that there is a cost, but there is also a benefit. So an investment that means then a return over the time with all the benefit that we are saying, but also the process itself can be less difficult than probably what people think they should do in the house. Oh, I have to install PV, I have to. Now there are companies that are taking it from scratch. They help you to build the full package.
Jobs will be lost. I think this is a big myth that need to be busted. It's, I mean, maybe in 50 years might be, but right now the amount of work needed to make e-mobility possible is much, much bigger than sticking to fuel-based transportation.
And I will add the last one, so the price of the EV. And of course, if you think about Tesla, yes, it is expensive. But can we have more and more affordable cars which are completely EV? I think this is possible. And I think that automotive industry is really working towards that. So we are seeing solutions which are more in the price range of average ICE car. So it's happening as well. But if we think, oh, it's expensive, we cannot afford that, probably it will never change. So I think that we just need to keep going towards those cheaper EV cars as well.
May I add to Katarzyna's point? Like, it comes again to the consensus of society, what is norm and what is not. Because if you talk about, for example, Scandinavian countries, which has huge taxes on cars, and to have any car is expensive, but they, as a society, agreed that for green cars, taxes are much lower or close to zero. And then it makes not expensive for the regular person to buy a car, but those regular persons are voting for the politicians who introduced the taxes. So it has, again, we have the same circle about the consensus. Once we agree that diesel car, whatever, however nice it is, it's a bad thing, electric car is a good thing, then we will introduce subsidies, tax exemptions, and so on and so forth, and prices for the regular person will be at least normal.
I will add just one thing to that. So I have a friend in California. I don't know how many of you have been there, but if you go there to highways, there is few lines. And actually, there is a rule there that if you are driving the EV, you can use the most left line, which is normally faster. And my friend, she's traveling to work, and for her, if she goes normal, now internal combustion engine, it will be around 40 minutes. But because she has EV and she goes on this fast track, for her it's 20 minutes. So if you think that is almost 1 hour per day, yeah, maybe this car was more expensive, but at the end, you are gaining time. But this kind of solutions needs to come now to us as well, and our policymakers probably should think about this kind of solutions as well.
I would like to move forward because we don't have that much time. So one point that I would really like to make is e-mobility is not only about passenger cars, because I think that's also something that we kind of see, like people focused only on passenger cars, but we also have buses, we also have trucks, we also have ships or even planes. Like, what would you find relevant from that point of view? What would be the directions that are needed basically to accelerate transition?
Well, we are working on several projects for electric airplane, electric ship, which is, from a technological point of view, the easiest one. The ship is typically very big, there is space for batteries, and the recharge behavior is very predictable because the ship moves from point A to point B and then has the time to recharge. And for heavy-duty trucks, which is the most difficult, I have to say, because they need to be used as much as possible without too long recharge time. We have some project going on, and I would say there is a technological step to make before this will be possible. So I don't expect it to take off before 5 years.
Hopefully nothing happened there.
Okay, I would say that if you have to choose where to start from when talking about heavy duty, I would say public transport, because public transport make a lot of kilometers within the city area. And this morning, by the way, I was before the conference answering some emails, and next to the hotel I was sitting outside. It was sunny. And I even didn't need to look at the street, but I could smell whether bus was passing diesel or electric. And I was so happy to see, kudos to Warsaw, at least 3 of electric buses passed. There was a bus stop. And you can feel difference as like you are just close there. And I think that has more benefits that if society sees that, oh, there are so many electric buses, one thing, they will become proud of their city. They will say, if they see elsewhere that there are diesel buses, they say, oh, that's so smelly, so not good. And they will be proud, oh, in Warsaw, all buses are electric, and then others will think, oh, this is good, And another good benefit, probably they will start thinking that electricity in transport is not somewhere in the future, but it's like here. And when they think about their own transport, if they buy it, they will think, oh, okay, I'm using bus. Why not? Why it should be a problem for light vehicle if bus can go on battery?
I would like to touch upon something else, which is also crucial, basically, in the e-mobility transition, about policy. We need the right framework, basically, from the regulation and policy side. Do you think the current governmental and city incentives and policies are ambitious enough to drive e-mobility forward? And what would be still needed?
Not ambitious enough.
What would be needed?
I have no straight answer to this. What should be needed, but probably education, and as I said, more activism from those who talk about environment protection or health living, in the cities. I probably get back to my first comment, but maybe others have some more ideas. Katarzyna.
I will say something different here. I will ask the question, not if it's ambitious, is it realistic? And my point will be actually those policies, whatever it's said there, it needs to really go together with industry, together with technology advancement, together with if our supply chain is possible to cope up. So I think that it just cannot be put aside and someone out there somewhere decides something. They really need to talk with industry, with consumers as well, because at the end, a lot of people will decide if they want that or not. So I think that much more integration is needed here.
Industry will follow. I can give an example. 2 or 3 years ago, Lithuania announced that they will have 34,000 prosumers for PVs, for solar panels. It looked like it's just crazy. It looked like it's not possible. And since then, I know at least 7 new companies within my circle. For one of them, I helped to establish, and they are growing like really fast. Lithuanians now, like regular person knows what is PV, how much kilowatt hours you can get out of 1 kilowatt installed, and everything transition happened like in, I guess 3 or maximum 4 years, but like times more. And I think that industry will follow once the government set the goals, but what is important, that they would stick to those goals. Even if they are really ambitious, but if they stick to it, and if they help to reach them, that's really possible. And then, businesses as Filippo, they will know whether they should stick to e-mobility with their solution, or should they look other industries with the solution, which is also possible to use, I guess, elsewhere.
Yes, but what is really needed is clarity, reliability, and coordination between legislation in different countries, because a moving target is the worst thing, especially considering the big, long investment that are needed.
At the EU level, we have the Net Zero Industrial Act that basically says that 80% of the demand should be met from the domestic manufacturers. Is that realistic?
We had this discussion already, so you know what is my point of view. In some cases, yes, but I gave this nickel example before. Europe is responsible for less than 10% of production of nickel. So can we actually bring this 80%? No, we cannot. We can try to do things like recycling, making use of those materials more sustainable, as, for example, coating is trying to do. But actually, we don't have 80% of the nickel or cobalt or other things we need. So it will be great. And I said, some cases, maybe yes. But again, we need to be here more realistic and more in touch with industry and what is possible, actually.
I disagree. I think it's possible. Just it takes time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, of course, because supply chain need to be built, but technically it's possible.
You think that it's possible to find the new ores of nickel or cobalt somewhere?
No, but I think it's possible to recycle almost 100% of it. So now it's impossible because it's ramping up, but once it's stabilized, then yes, it will be possible. Also because electric equipment lasts much longer than fuel-based. So you will have less and less need for raw material the longer you wait. Now it's impossible, I agree with you.
So looking beyond the technological innovations from the industry and beyond the policy regulations, I think the ultimate factor is convincing the consumer basically to adopt EV and make the transition. How can we educate the consumer? Because this is ultimately a change in behavior, in the mindset. How can we basically convince them with arguments or other means basically to transition?
I'm a big fan of pilot projects, whatever it is. Like it's better to try than to see or to hear about it. And in Lithuania, particularly in Vilnius, we have a good example of a car-sharing company. Actually, we have 2 car-sharing companies competing to each other, but one of them is 100% electric fleet. And they launched, if I'm right, maybe someone will correct me, I guess 2016, 2017. So it's quite a while as Vilnius residents are able to drive electric cars. And some of them said, oh, I'm not buying a new car, because it's okay, I can grab a car in the street. And interestingly enough, when I was in Athens meeting partners 2019, and I asked what kind of car share companies do you have, and they said Sixt, Avis, others. I said no, car sharing. They even didn't know it. So then I understood, oh, how powerful local business can be, like if government, if municipality at least is not bringing obstacles, at least not forbid, and give them space to park and supports in at least softly, and eventually when I ask someone, have you tried electric car? If they're from Vilnius, they usually say, yeah, I don't have mine, but I drew a couple of them, several of them from that particular company.
Yeah, as I was saying before, so you need to help people in this transition, in behavioral change, let them understand that it's not too difficult, that there is a return, and also try to be an example. So from our side, for example, we have a lot of location and facilities, and what we try to do also in ours is to embed this culture and mindset with activities that are bringing in the industries that we have, fleets and fleet management, and we have a program called Mission to Zero, basically to enable our sites to be carbon neutral over time, and that is, it's also a way to showcase or prepare blueprints and then present it to people, to other businesses that can basically apply what they see it's possible.
Because we don't have that much time, I would like to actually give the audience the chance to ask a couple of questions, but like maybe one or two, because we'll have to wrap it up in like 10 minutes. Maybe I would ask for the microphone to be passed if there are any questions.
Not much.
No questions from the audience. Okay, then we'll move on then with our discussion. I would like everyone to think about a key takeaway from today's discussion. We obviously saw there's a lot that is being asked from the future mobility solution. They have to be affordable, they have to be carbon neutral, they have to fit all types of consumers. What would be, if you would have one key takeaway that you would like to leave the audience with? I know it's very hard.
Yeah, I will repeat myself, but I would take one keyword: mindset. So changing mindset is not something technologically super duper far away or difficult. So it's just working, you know, talking with the different social groups, trying to explain what is what, how it works, give to try, explain benefits. Also talking about mobility, you know, even though it will sound that I'm talking against myself, but no car is the best car, I guess. So once we learn that there are so many alternatives, healthier and alternatives, then we will appreciate being in a
What are those alternatives? Micromobility?
Micromobility, yes. Walking, bicycles, counting these steps. This is what we do in our company, by the way. There's 3 months competition, and and everyone is trying to compete secretly sometimes, but that's really fun. And then people find, okay, there is a difference once you are in the forest and when you are in the city. So I wish to everyone to live in the cities which are as fresh as forests.
Sebastiano?
I would say another pillar of this process that for us it's digitalization. So bring digital systems in place to allow the complexity to be reduced and to deliver people, assets, app, software, whatever it needs to feel that the process is simple, that things are integrated, and actually that the benefit that you can achieve they can be visible to you as well. So deliver systems that allows basically to do that.
Filippo?
My takeaway is more a suggestion, is give electric car a chance because they are really fun to drive.
Good one.
Thank you.
I like this
Katarzyna.
one. I would say that every one of us is a solution to the problem which we have. If you are a car manufacturer, if you are a startup, if you are a policymaker or consumer, it's just in the hands of all of us. So depends on us just if you are able to do it, to go through this transition or not.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're quite ahead of time. If someone changed his mind and still wants to address a question, okay, we do have a question there.
It's working. Hello, my name is Armin, and the question is to the panelists and the audience. Who has an electrical car? So look around. We are from the industry, and we are not driving the electric car, so the change starts from us. I have no questions.
Maybe others, you know, walked by, just or cycled.
I would ask this way, that Ignas, you said the mindset is the key word here, right? But what are the biggest triggers today in order to change the mindset? I mean, this is the question to all of the panelists.
Yeah, I think it's reducing the fares, like not being scared that there is an alternative. There is different than it was entire your life, you know, or your parents' life. So I think that's the main thing. You know, I'm absolutely convinced that you know, the young generation, the kids who are like nowadays today kids, when they get adults, they will ask us, so you were driving, you know, diesel car in the old town? Oh, and for us, probably it's the same when we look at old movie from 70s. Oh, the guy was smoking, you know, in the office or in the plane. Oh, that's crazy. But even we remember that in 2007, at least, you know, like in entire Europe, it was okay to have a lunch and to smoke. And, you know, or someone else is smoking next by.
In
nearby.
cinemas.
Pardon?
In cinemas, an airplane, you could smoke in the past.
Yeah, okay. So, so now we experience this only when we are somewhere in a third country, you know, where it's allowed to smoke indoors, and it looks so strange, you know. So I believe that this is
So doesn't that start with policy then?
one of the things, of course. And policy comes from the consensus, as I said, you know, like when we all socially agree that this is not acceptable. This is not acceptable to drive a diesel car in the nice old town as Tallinn is, or Warsaw or elsewhere.
I would say that what can trigger this mindset change is as well feeling that you have support. So if you think that, no, I don't know, my batteries will be put into flames, that nobody cares and say, no, this is your problem. That you feel that actually whatever happens, you have the support of the policymakers or somebody who sold you this car or somebody who made this battery. That you feel that, no, there is support, there is this net that you can land if something's happened.
Good point.
Yeah. So let's ask this question again in 3 years, and let's see what's the answer.
Any other questions from the audience?
Yeah, Brooks Chungbion from Silvatex here, and I was just curious for your guys' take, what you believe are the biggest bottlenecks towards accelerated EV adoption. In my view, it's the cathode, being that it's the most costly and carbon-intensive part of the battery. And if we really want to make this transition, sustainable, bringing down the carbon footprint of manufacturing is going to be really important. But I'm really interested from your take what the biggest bottleneck is.
I think a little bit of everything what we talked today. Still, this range anxiety still it's existing, you know. Like, okay, batteries still has some limits. Prices, if not adjusted with the subsidies and taxations, still are, relevant to those who are buying. So I even hardly can pick up, one particular bottleneck, which is the main obstacle.
Charging infrastructure.
I don't see, okay, I'll give here a point.
I'm just playing devil's advocate,
very,
of course.
Very quickly, charging infrastructure, we should accept it will always follow. Even Norwegians are complaining about charging infrastructure, and they say, oh, there are too little number of chargers. Of course, who invests in chargers if there is no demand? Do you build a house if you do not know if you sell it? So the more EVs, the more chargers follow. So this is how I see it.
Specific bottleneck?
Voltage.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I think, as I said before, so I have more the perception of the cost, so the fear of the cost, while at the end, if you give proof points that there is a return over time, especially if you have the best condition, yes, if you have, I don't know, self-generation in your place, and that makes it easier, that would help. But in general, it's not rocket science or doubling the cost that you might have with some other means. So that's the area where we could explain actively to the users.
You said cathodes. Did I hear this correctly? Yes. So making this kind of bits of equipment like cathode and making it cheaper and actually have the raw materials to make it definitively is the big thing. Is it the most important? One of the important ones. So having all those technology enablers and now having the raw materials to make it and having people which can make it, this is what we need, I think.
Thank you so much. And that being said, time is up. We're on time. Thank you to the panelists, and thank you also to the audience for the great discussion.